The Galactic Survey ship Eternal Wanderer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Commander Vexler stood at the observation deck, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as they always did when he was nervous. Behind him, his crew of 12 Tharani scientists and navigators worked at their stations, running the standard scans that preceded any planetary survey. "Commander," said Science Officer Muracle, her voice shaking slightly, "I am receiving the automated probe data from the 3rd planet now." Vexler turned to face her. The Tharani were a tall species, standing nearly 3 meters high, with thin bodies covered in soft blue scales. They had survived for 10,000 years among the stars by being careful. They studied worlds from a distance. They never took risks. This approach had kept them alive while dozens of other species had gone extinct. "Put it on the main display," Vexler ordered. The holographic screen came to life, showing a beautiful blue and green world spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Vexler felt a moment of hope. The planet looked peaceful from this distance. Perhaps they had finally found a suitable world for the colony program. Then the data started scrolling across the screen. Muracle made a sound of pure horror. The other crew members stopped their work and stared at the display. One of the younger technicians actually fell backward off his chair. "This cannot be correct," Vexler said. "Run the scans again." "I have run them 4 times already, Commander," Muracle replied. "The data is accurate. That world is. It is a death trap." Vexler read through the information slowly, his mind struggling to accept what he was seeing. The planet they were looking at had an atmosphere that was 21% oxygen, pure, reactive, explosive oxygen. The Tharani breathed an atmosphere of only 4% oxygen. Anything more was toxic. But that was just the beginning. The surface was covered in liquid dihydrogen monoxide, water, billions upon billions of liters of it, enough to drown entire continents. And this water fell from the sky on a regular basis. It also froze into solid crystals that buried everything beneath it. The planet had active volcanoes that spewed molten rock. It had massive storms that produced electrical discharges powerful enough to kill any Tharani instantly. The ground itself moved and shook in events called earthquakes. Huge waves of water sometimes rose up and swept across coastal areas, destroying everything in their path. "The radiation levels," one of the technicians whispered. "The local star bombards this planet with radiation constantly. There is no protection." "There is some protection," Muracle corrected. "The planet has a magnetic field and a thin layer of gas that blocks some of the radiation, but not all of it. Beings living there would still be exposed to dangerous levels." Vexler felt sick. He had surveyed over 200 worlds in his career. He had seen hostile environments before. He had documented planets with acid rain, planets with crushing gravity, planets with toxic atmospheres. But he had never seen anything like this. "The biological data," he said. "What does the probe tell us about life on this world?" Muracle hesitated. Her 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "Commander, I think you should sit down before I show you this." "Just show me." The display changed to show the creatures that lived on this death world. Vexler watched in stunned silence as image after image appeared. There were massive creatures in the water with rows of razor-sharp teeth that could bite through metal. There were 8-legged monsters that injected poison into their prey. There were flying insects that drank blood and spread disease. There were plants, actual plants that caught and ate animals. There were creatures so small they could not be seen, yet they caused horrible sicknesses that killed millions. "The large predators are particularly concerning," Muracle said. "This one is called a bear. It stands 3 meters tall and can run at speeds of 60 kilometers per hour. It can kill with a single blow from its claws." "And this one?" "A crocodile. It has remained essentially unchanged for 200 million years because it is already a perfect killing machine. It drowns its prey and stores the bodies underwater until they rot enough to eat. Vexler felt his stomach turn. Surely no intelligent species could evolve on such a world. Miracle was quiet for a long moment. "Commander, that is what I need to show you next. The probe has detected signs of advanced civilization on the planet." "That is impossible. I have verified the data 17 times. There are cities down there, transportation networks, communication signals, industry, and Commander, the dominant species is actively using nuclear technology." The room went completely silent. Every Tharani present understood what this meant. Nuclear technology required a level of intelligence and scientific advancement that took most species millions of years to achieve. And somehow, something had achieved this on a world that should have killed everything that lived there. "Show me this species," Vexler said. The image that appeared on the screen would haunt his dreams for years to come. The creatures were bipedal, standing roughly 2 meters tall on average. They had only 2 eyes, but those eyes were forward-facing, the mark of a predator. Their mouths were filled with teeth designed for tearing and grinding flesh. Their hands ended in fingers that could grip and manipulate tools with frightening precision. But it was the data about their behavior that truly terrified Vexler. "They call themselves humans," Miracle explained. "And Commander, they are not just surviving on this death world. They are thriving. They have spread to every corner of the planet. They live in the frozen regions. They live in the burning deserts. They live on the tops of mountains and in the depths of the oceans. There is nowhere on that world they have not conquered." "How?" Vexler asked. "How is this possible?" "I do not know, Commander, but there is more. The humans do not just survive the dangers of their world. They seek them out. They climb their most dangerous mountains for entertainment. They swim in waters filled with predators for fun. They build machines that let them move at speeds that would kill any Tharani, and they do this recreationally." Vexler stared at the image of the human on the screen. It looked back at him with those predator eyes, and even though it was just a recording, he felt a chill run through his body. "We need to leave," he said. "Now, set a course back to Tharani space immediately." "Commander, our mission parameters require us to make contact with any intelligent species I am overriding those parameters. We are not prepared for this. No one in the galaxy is prepared for this. These creatures are apex predators that evolved on a world designed to kill them, and they conquered it anyway. We are not making contact until the Council has been informed and a proper diplomatic team has been assembled." As the Eternal Wanderer turned and began its journey back to Tharani space, Vexler took one last look at the blue planet growing smaller in the distance. Somewhere down there, 8 billion apex predators went about their daily lives, completely unaware that the galaxy had just discovered them. And Vexler had a terrible feeling that the galaxy was not ready for what would happen next. The Galactic Council had not been called into emergency session for over 300 years. The last time had been during the Kreth incursion, when a hostile species had threatened to destabilize the entire western arm of the galaxy. That crisis had taken 40 years to resolve and had cost billions of lives. Now, the council chambers on the station known as Central Point were filled once again. Representatives from all 47 member species had gathered to hear Commander Vexler's report. They sat in their assigned sections, each area adjusted for the specific environmental needs of its occupants. The Moltari floated in their liquid tanks. The Christine hummed at frequencies that made the air itself vibrate. The Vorn sat motionless, their silicon-based bodies radiating gentle heat. High Counselor Zethrin, an ancient Tharani who had served on the council for over 2 centuries, called the assembly to order. "Commander Vexler has returned from the unexplored region designated Sector 7 with information that the preliminary committee has deemed critical to galactic security. Commander, please present your findings." Vexler stepped forward onto the speaking platform. He had spent the entire journey home preparing for this moment, but now that it had arrived, he found his words failing him. "Honored council members," he began, "I have discovered a species that I believe poses the greatest challenge the galaxy has ever faced, not because they are hostile. As far as we know, they are not aware we exist, but because of what they are and what they represent." He activated the holographic display, and the image of Earth appeared above the assembled representatives. "This is the third planet of a yellow star system in Sector 7. The natives call it Earth. What I am about to show you will be disturbing, but I ask that you watch carefully." For the next hour, Vexler presented his data. He showed them the environmental conditions of the planet. He showed them the predators and parasites and poisons that filled every corner of the world. He showed them the diseases and disasters and dangers that would kill any known species within days. The council members reacted with increasing horror. Several of the smaller species representatives had to leave the chamber when the images of Earth's predators were displayed. The Moltari actually boiled their containment fluid in distress. Even the normally stoic Vorn showed signs of agitation, their crystalline structures vibrating in visible patterns. But the worst was yet to come. "And now," Vexler said, "I will show you the dominant species of this death world." The image of a human appeared on the display. It was a male, standing in what appeared to be a natural setting, wearing minimal clothing. His skin was exposed to the radiation of his star. His muscles were clearly visible beneath that skin. His eyes looked directly at the camera with an expression that several council members later described as challenging. "They call themselves humans," Vexler said, "and they are unlike anything we have ever encountered." He began listing the human capabilities. Humans could survive temperature ranges that would kill most species. They could function without water for days and without food for weeks. They healed from injuries that would be fatal to others. They could consume substances that were poisonous to every other known intelligent species, including ethanol and capsaicin, and they did so for pleasure. "But their physical capabilities are not what makes them truly extraordinary," Vexler continued. "It is their psychology. These creatures have developed a mental trait that has no equivalent in any known species. They call it persistence." He showed footage from the probe of a human hunting. The creature did not chase its prey quickly and catch it. Instead, it followed the animal at a steady pace for hours, covering dozens of kilometers, never stopping, never resting, until its prey simply collapsed from exhaustion. "They evolved as pursuit predators," Vexler explained. "They do not need to be faster than their prey. They simply need to never stop. They track their targets across any terrain, in any weather, for any distance. They do not give up, ever." The council chamber was absolutely silent. And this trait extends beyond hunting. Humans apply persistence to everything they do. They built their civilization through the accumulation of countless small efforts over thousands of years. When they encounter an obstacle, they do not go around it. They do not avoid it. They work at it until it is gone. Their history is filled with examples of individuals who spent their entire lives working toward goals they knew they would never see completed. Representative Crixtal of the Moltari spoke up, his voice bubbling through his translator. "Commander, surely you exaggerate. No species can be this determined. It would be psychologically impossible." "I have recordings," Vexler said. "Humans have climbed their planet's highest mountain, a peak so tall that the air at the top cannot sustain life, simply because it was there. They have traveled to the bottom of their deepest ocean trenches, where the pressure would crush any vessel we could build. They have even left their planet and walked on their moon, using technology that was primitive by any standard." "They have achieved space travel?" High Counselor Zethrin asked, alarmed. "Yes, Counselor. They first left their atmosphere approximately 70 of their years ago. They have since sent unmanned probes to every planet in their system and beyond. It is only a matter of time before they develop faster-than-light technology." The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. The Christine's humming became so intense that several nearby delegates had to cover their hearing organs. The Vorn actually moved, which happened so rarely that it silenced everyone who witnessed it. "Order," Zethrin called. "Order in the chamber." It took several minutes for quiet to be restored. "Commander," Zethrin said, "you spoke of challenges. What exactly do you believe these humans represent?" Vexler took a deep breath. "High Counselor, our civilization is built on careful planning and risk avoidance. We have survived by being cautious. We study dangers from a distance. We go around obstacles rather than through them. We prioritize safety above all else." "Yes, this is the way of intelligent beings." "The humans do the opposite. They run toward danger. They seek out challenges. They improve themselves through struggle and hardship. And High Counselor, it works. In just 10,000 years, they have gone from living in caves to building nuclear reactors. By comparison, it took the Tharani 200,000 years to achieve the same level of development." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. "You are saying," Zethrin said slowly, "that their recklessness is an advantage." "I am saying that what we call recklessness they call courage. What we call unnecessary risk they call growth. They have a saying on their world, 'What does not kill me makes me stronger.' They believe that facing danger improves them, and based on their rate of advancement, they may be right." Representative Mortal of the Vorn spoke for the first time in decades, his voice like grinding stones. "Then we must destroy them before they become a threat." Several council members voiced agreement. The chamber began to buzz with discussion of military options. "That," Vexler said, raising his voice to be heard, "would be the greatest mistake in galactic history." Everyone fell silent again. "Did you not hear what I said? These creatures never give up. If we attack them and fail to destroy them completely, they will spend every moment of every day until the end of time hunting us down. They will not forgive. They will not forget. They will not stop. And given their rate of technological advancement, they will eventually succeed." "Then we destroy them completely," Mortal said. "Can we? Their population is 8 billion. They are spread across their entire planet and are beginning to spread to others. They have nuclear weapons and will certainly detect any attack we launch. And here is what truly terrifies me. They have already fought 2 global wars against each other. They know how to wage war on a scale we cannot imagine. If we attack them, we will not be facing a primitive species caught off guard. We will be facing apex predators who have spent their entire existence fighting to survive." High Counselor Zethrin leaned back in his chair, looking older than Vexler had ever seen him. "Then what do you suggest, Commander?" Vexler paused before answering. "I suggest we do what the Tharani have always done when faced with a superior force. We make friends with it before it makes enemies of us." The debate in the council chamber lasted for 14 standard days. Representatives argued, threatened, and pleaded. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for complete isolation, building barriers around the Sol system and hopping the humans never developed faster than light travel. A few suggested simply waiting, and hopping the humans would destroy themselves. In the end, High Counselor Zethrin's decision surprised everyone. "We will send a diplomatic mission," he announced. "A small team of representatives from multiple species, led by Commander Vexler, since he has already studied these humans. Their goal will be to make peaceful contact and assess whether these humans can be incorporated into the galactic community." "And if they cannot," Representative Mortal asked, "then we will have learned valuable intelligence about their capabilities. Either way, we gain something." And so, 30 days later, the diplomatic vessel Harmony of Stars departed from Central Point, carrying the most unusual diplomatic team ever assembled. Commander Vexler was indeed in charge. With him were Ambassador Crixtal of the Moltari, who could survive in almost any liquid environment. There was observer Trell of the Christine, whose people communicated through vibrations and could detect lies through subtle changes in vocal patterns. And there was Watcher Gorn of the Vorn, whose silicon-based biology made him nearly indestructible by human standards. Each had been chosen for specific reasons. Together, they represented the diversity and capabilities of the Galactic Council, and all of them were terrified. The journey to Earth took 12 days at maximum hyperspace velocity. During that time, Vexler drilled his team constantly on human customs and communication. They studied human languages, focusing on the one called English, which seemed to be widely used. They learned about human history, their governments, their religions, their art. They have thousands of different languages, Crystal asked during one session, his liquid body rippling with confusion. At least 7,000 documented ones, Vexler confirmed, though many are no longer in common use. How do they communicate with each other? Many of them learn multiple languages, others use translation technology, and apparently they frequently misunderstand each other, which leads to conflicts. So they fight because they cannot communicate properly. Among other reasons, yes. Trell vibrated in what Vexler had learned to recognize as distress. They fight constantly. Their history is nothing but war after war. How are they not extinct? Because they are also remarkably good at cooperation, Vexler said. This is the contradiction at the heart of human nature. They are simultaneously the most violent and the most cooperative species we have ever encountered. They fight terrible wars, and then they form alliances and rebuild together. They commit horrible acts of cruelty, and then they show incredible acts of kindness. They are capable of both genocide and self-sacrifice. This makes no sense, Gorn rumbled. I know, but it is true. The harmony of stars dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, far enough from Earth that they would not be detected immediately. They spent 3 days observing and intercepting human communications to better understand the current political situation. What they found was both reassuring and alarming. The humans were not united under a single government. Instead, they had divided their world into nearly 200 separate nations, each with its own leadership and military. These nations were constantly competing with each other, forming alliances and breaking them, trading and fighting and negotiating in endless cycles. This is good, Crystal observed. A divided species is less dangerous than a united one. Is it? Vexler asked. Look at their history. Whenever they face an external threat, they unite with remarkable speed. And once united, they have never been defeated. They fought against diseases that killed hundreds of millions and eventually conquered them. They fought against their own planet's climate and are learning to control it. They fought against the limitations of their biology and are beginning to modify themselves. You speak as if you admire them, Trell vibrated. Vexler considered the question. I think I fear them, but yes, perhaps I admire them as well. They are terrible and wonderful in equal measure. They decided to make contact with a facility called the United Nations, which seemed to be the closest thing the humans had to a global governing body. Vexler composed a message in English and broadcast it toward the planet on multiple frequencies. People of Earth, we are representatives of the Galactic Council, an organization of intelligent species from across the galaxy. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your kind. We will approach your planet slowly and with no weapons active. Please do not be alarmed. We mean you no harm. Then they waited. The response came faster than any of them had expected. Within hours, every major human government had mobilized. Military vessels put to sea. Aircraft took to the skies. Communication channels flooded with panicked discussions and urgent orders. But what truly amazed the alien delegation was what happened next. Instead of attacking, the humans sent a response. It came from the United Nations headquarters, and it was simple and direct. Welcome to Earth. We invite you to meet with representatives of our species to discuss peaceful relations. Please proceed to the following coordinates. We will be waiting." "They are not attacking," Trell vibrated in amazement. "I told you," Vexler said. "They are capable of cooperation. The question is whether they will choose to cooperate with us." The harmony of stars descended through Earth's atmosphere, its shield straining against the friction and heat. The ship was designed for hostile environments, but Earth pushed it to its limits. By the time they landed at the designated coordinates, a large open space near the human city called New York, the vessel was showing warning signs across multiple systems. "The atmosphere is trying to kill us," Crystal observed. "The atmosphere is trying to kill everything," Vexler replied. "The humans just do not seem to notice." Outside the ship, a crowd had gathered. Thousands of humans stood behind barriers, held back by uniformed officers. Flying machines filled the sky, many of them carrying cameras. Vexler could see that human technology had allowed them to broadcast this moment to their entire planet. "They are watching us," Gorn rumbled, "all of them." "Yes, we are about to introduce ourselves to 8 billion apex predators. Let us hope we make a good first impression." The delegation descended from their ship, walking on specially designed platforms that protected them from direct contact with Earth's hostile environment. Vexler went first, as protocol demanded. Behind him came his 3 companions, each moving carefully in their protective gear. A group of humans approached. They were dressed in formal clothing and walked with an air of importance. At their head was a female human with dark skin and silver hair. She moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to leadership. "I am Secretary General Adisa Okonkwo of the United Nations," she said. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you to our world." Vexler activated his translator and stepped forward. "I am Commander Vexler of the Galactic Survey Fleet, representing the Galactic Council. We thank you for receiving us peacefully. We were not certain how your species would react to our arrival." Secretary General Okonkwo smiled. It was the first time Vexler had seen this expression on a living human, and despite his preparations, he found it unsettling. The display of teeth was clearly meant to be friendly, but to Therany eyes it looked like a threat. "Commander Vexler," she said, "we have wondered for a long time whether we were alone in the universe. Now we know we are not. This is a day of celebration, not conflict." Vexler felt a small measure of hope. Perhaps this would go well after all. Then Secretary General Okonkwo asked the question that would change everything. "Tell me, Commander, what brought you to Earth? Out of all the planets in the galaxy, why did you choose to visit ours?" Vexler hesitated. He looked at his companions. None of them had a good answer. Finally, he told the truth. "We came because we were afraid of you," he said. "We came because we needed to understand how anything could survive on this world. And we came because we believe your species may be the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, and we wanted to meet you before you came to meet us." The Secretary General's smile faded. The crowd behind her went quiet. Somewhere a camera clicked. "Dangerous," she said. "Why would you think we are dangerous?" And Vexler began to explain. The conference room in the United Nations building was unlike anything the alien delegation had experienced. It was a large space with walls made mostly of glass, offering views of the human city sprawling in every direction. The furniture was simple but elegant, designed for human bodies that seemed terrifyingly fragile compared to most galactic species. Secretary General Okonkwo sat at one end of a long table. She was joined by representatives from several major human nations, all of them watching the alien delegation with expressions that Vexler could not read. His training had not prepared him for the subtle variations in human facial communication. "Let me understand this correctly," the Secretary General said. "You believe that Earth is one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy, and that humans are dangerous because we evolved here. Yes, Vexler replied. To give you some perspective, most species in the Galactic Council evolved on worlds with lower gravity, less radiation, milder temperatures, and far fewer predators. The Therany homeworld has never experienced what you call a natural disaster. Our most dangerous native creature is comparable to what you call a rabbit. Several of the human representatives exchanged looks that Vexler interpreted as amusement. Our planet is not that dangerous, one of them said. He was a large male with pale skin and yellow hair representing a nation called Russia. We have beaches, mountains, beautiful forests. Your beaches have sharks, Ambassador Crystal bubbled through his containment sphere. Your mountains have avalanches. Your forests are filled with bears and wolves and insects that carry fatal diseases. And your oceans, Observer Trell vibrated, are perhaps the most terrifying environment we have ever documented. The pressure, the cold, the creatures that live in the dark depths. How do you swim in such places? The humans looked at each other again. We just do, the Secretary General said. We have always done these things. We never thought of our world as particularly dangerous. That, Vexler said, is precisely what makes you terrifying. You do not recognize danger the way other species do. You run toward it instead of away from it, and somehow, impossibly, you survive. The room fell silent for a long moment. Then the Secretary General began to laugh. It was a strange sound, a rhythmic expulsion of air that seemed to serve no practical purpose. Vexler's training identified it as an expression of amusement or joy, but he did not understand what was amusing about the situation. Forgive me, she said, still laughing, but you have spent all this time studying us, and you have completely missed the point. What do you mean? Commander Vexler, everything you say about humans is true. We are aggressive. We are persistent. We face challenges that would break other beings, but you are describing our survival instincts, not our character. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. Do you see that city out there? 8 million people live in it. They come from every nation on Earth, speaking hundreds of languages, practicing dozens of religions, holding countless different beliefs. By every logical measure, they should be fighting constantly, but they are not. They live together, work together, create together. She turned back to face the delegation. Yes, we have fought wars, terrible wars that killed millions, but we have also built hospitals that save millions. We have created art that moves people to tears. We have written stories that transcend every boundary our species has ever known. We are not just apex predators, Commander. We are also poets, musicians, scientists, teachers. We are capable of great violence, but we are also capable of great love. Vexler did not know how to respond. This was not what he had expected. Your reports focus on our wars, the Secretary General continued. But you did not mention that our longest-lasting institutions are not military ones. They are universities, libraries, hospitals. The organizations that endure among humans are the ones that heal and teach, not the ones that kill. But your history, Trell began. Our history includes horror, yes, but it also includes sacrifice. Humans have died to save strangers. We have risked our lives to protect children who were not our own. We have given up everything we had to help people we would never meet. She paused. Is this the behavior of mere predators? Watcher Gorn spoke for the first time since their arrival, his voice rumbling through the chamber. You speak of sacrifice. My people do not understand this concept. We are individuals. We do not die for each other. Then I am sorry for you, the Secretary General said, and her voice held no mockery, only sadness. Because that is the best of what we are. When humans love, we love completely. We form bonds that last until death and beyond. We create families not just from blood, but from choice. We call strangers friends and friends family. She returned to her seat and leaned forward, her eyes meeting Vexler's directly. You came here expecting monsters, and perhaps by your standards we are. But we are also so much more than that. We are dreamers who looked up at the stars and decided to go there, not to conquer, but to explore. We are builders who create beauty from nothing. We are protectors who will fight to the death for those we love. Vexler felt something shift inside him. For months, he had been afraid of humans. He had studied them as threats, analyzed them as dangers. But now, looking at this female who faced him without fear, who spoke of love and sacrifice and dreams, he realized that his analysis had been incomplete. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "From the galaxy." The Secretary General smiled again, and this time Vexler did not find it threatening. "We want what we have always wanted," she said. "To not be alone, to find others who share this universe with us, to learn and grow and become something greater than we are. We want to be your friends, Commander. Is that so hard to believe?" The delegation returned to their ship that night to rest and consider what they had learned. The humans provided them with comfortable quarters, carefully adjusted to match their environmental needs. They also provided food, carefully prepared according to specifications that the diplomatic team had transmitted in advance. But Vexler could not sleep. He stood at the observation port, watching the human city glitter with lights below. "You are troubled," Crixtal observed, floating up beside him. "I am confused," Vexler admitted. "I prepared for this mission by studying humans as predators. I analyzed their hunting patterns, their tribal behaviors, their capacity for violence. I was ready for aggression. I was not ready for this." "For what?" "For them to be kind." Vexler turned to face his colleague. "The Secretary General could have threatened us. She could have demanded technology or tried to intimidate us. Instead, she invited us to be friends. She spoke of love and cooperation and dreams. How do I report this to the Council?" "You report the truth," Crixtal said. "You tell them that humans are exactly as dangerous as we feared, but also something more, something we did not expect. The Council will not understand. They will see only the danger. Then help them understand. That is your duty as a diplomat, to find truth and communicate it clearly." Vexler looked back at the city below. Somewhere out there, 8 billion humans were living their lives, fighting and loving and creating and destroying, being terrible and wonderful in equal measure, just as he had described them. Perhaps, he thought, that was not a contradiction at all. Perhaps being capable of both great evil and great good was what made humans unique. Perhaps their very unpredictability was what made them special. And perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy needed a species like that. The next morning, the human delegation returned with a proposal. They wanted to establish an official diplomatic exchange. Human ambassadors would travel to Central Point to meet the Galactic Council, while Council representatives would remain on Earth to continue learning about human culture. "We have one request," the Secretary General said. "When you report to your council, we ask that you tell them the whole truth about us. Not just the parts that frighten you, but also the parts that might give you hope." Vexler agreed. 2 months later, he stood before the Galactic Council once again. The chamber was packed with representatives from all 47 member species, all of them eager to hear his report. "Honored council members," he began, "I have returned from Earth with information that will change everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe." He told them about the monsters and the miracles, the wars and the peacekeepers, the predators and the poets. He showed them images of human destruction and human creation. He played recordings of human violence and human music. And at the end, he said something that shocked them all. "I recommend that we welcome the humans into the Galactic Council, not because they are safe, but because they are necessary. Our civilization has survived for millennia by avoiding risk. We have become cautious and careful and slow. We have stopped growing. We have stopped dreaming. The humans can teach us to dream again." The chamber erupted into chaos, but in the midst of the shouting, Vexler noticed something. Some of the representatives were not protesting. They were listening. They were considering. And he knew that change had begun. 5 years had passed since first contact, and the galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. Vexler stood on the observation deck of Central Point, watching a human vessel dock at the station. It was the 15th human ship to arrive that month, carrying diplomats and scientists and artists who would spread across the galaxy, touching every species they encountered with their strange combination of danger and wonder. "You seem thoughtful," said a voice beside him. He turned to find Captain Sarah Chen, the human who had become his closest friend over the past 5 years. She was small by human standards, with dark hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. She commanded the human diplomatic vessel Endeavor, and she had spent more time among alien species than any other human alive. "I am remembering," Vexler said. "When I first came to your world, I expected to find monsters. Instead, I found something I still do not have words for." Sarah smiled. Unlike the first time Vexler had seen a human smile, the expression no longer unsettled him. He had learned to recognize the warmth behind it. "We are still monsters by your standards," she said. "We haven't changed." "No, but my understanding has changed. You are monsters who build hospitals, predators who write poetry, killers who die to save strangers. You are a contradiction that somehow works." The human ship completed its docking procedures, and Vexler watched as the passengers began to disembark. Among them were several young humans, barely adults by their species standards. They looked around at the station with expressions of pure wonder, their predator eyes wide with excitement. "The exchange program," Sarah explained. "Young humans coming to study at the Central Point Academy, and young aliens going to Earth to study there." "The first alien students left for Earth last month," Vexler said. "The reports are interesting." "Oh." "The Therany student assigned to your North American continent has sent 17 communications requesting evacuation. Apparently, he was attacked by a small, fuzzy demon that lives in the trees." Sarah laughed. "Let me guess, a squirrel." "I believe that was the term used, yes. He says it stole his food." "Welcome to Earth," Sarah said, still laughing. "Even our rodents are aggressive." They walked together through the station, passing through areas that had been modified to accommodate human environmental needs. The corridors were warmer now, with brighter lighting and higher oxygen content. Warning signs in dozens of languages cautioned non-human species about the conditions ahead. "Have you heard about the Vorn expedition?" Sarah asked. "I have. They are sending 3 observers to join the human mission to Europa." "Europa is one of our moons. Ice surface, liquid ocean underneath. Perfect environment for the Vorn, actually. And the humans on the mission are excited to work with them. Silicon-based life forms that can survive in conditions that would kill any human instantly. It's going to be incredible." Vexler felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the temperature. This was what he had hoped for when he recommended human membership in the Council. Not just tolerance, but collaboration. Species that would never have worked together were now combining their strengths. "The Christine are composing a symphony with human musicians," he said. "The first cross-species musical composition in galactic history." "I heard. The Christine communicate through vibrations, right? They're fascinated by human music. Apparently, they think we feel sound differently than any other species, more intensely." "That is likely true. Humans feel everything more intensely." They reached a viewing area that looked out over the main commerce section of the station. It was crowded with beings from dozens of worlds, all of them moving through their daily lives. And among them, scattered throughout the crowd, were humans. Vexler spotted a human female haggling with a Moltari merchant over the price of something that looked like jewelry. A human male sat at what appeared to be a food stall, carefully eating something that Vexler was fairly certain would poison most other species. A group of human children ran through the crowd, playing some game that involved chasing each other, their laughter echoing off the station's walls. "You know what I find most remarkable about humans," Vexler said. "What's that?" "How quickly you adapt. 5 years ago, none of you had ever left your solar system. Now you have permanent residence on 6 different worlds. You have businesses operating across the galaxy. You have integrated yourselves into our society as if you always belonged here." "We're good at that," Sarah agreed. "Finding places we belong, even if we have to make them ourselves. You have changed us, you know, all of us. The Council is different now, more willing to take risks, more open to new ideas. Just last week, they approved an expedition to explore a region of space that they have been afraid to enter for 3,000 years. The Void Sector. Yes, the first ship launched yesterday. Its crew includes members from 12 different species, and 4 of them are human." Sarah nodded slowly. "That's why you really recommended us for membership, isn't it? Not because we could help you, but because you needed us to help you change." Vexler considered this for a long moment. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I simply recognized something that took me a long time to understand. You are not just apex predators. You are also apex adapters. You change yourselves. You change your environment. You change everyone around you. And somehow, usually, the changes are for the better." "Not always." "No, not always. Your capacity for destruction remains. Impressive. The Council still has nightmares about some of the things they learned about your history. But you also have an equally impressive capacity for growth. You learn from your mistakes. You try to become better. You never stop trying, even when it seems impossible. That is perhaps your most remarkable trait." A chime sounded throughout the station, announcing the arrival of another vessel. This one was not human but Christine, one of their great singing ships that traveled through space, surrounded by an envelope of pure sound. "The delegation for the Cultural Exchange Summit," Sarah said. "I should go meet them." "Of course, I will see you at the opening ceremony." "Wouldn't miss it." She turned to leave, then paused and looked back at him. "Vexler, thank you." "For what?" "For being the first one to give us a chance. For seeing past what we were and recognizing what we could be. The galaxy isn't just changed because of humans. It's changed because of you. Because you were brave enough to recommend friendship instead of fear." Before Vexler could respond, she was gone, walking quickly toward the docking area to meet the new arrivals. He stood alone for a moment, watching the crowded commerce area below. So many species, so many different forms of life, all of them sharing this small station in the vastness of space. And among them the humans, still dangerous, still unpredictable, still terrifying in their intensity and their refusal to give up. But also wonderful, capable of kindness that surprised him, capable of sacrifice that moved him, capable of love that he had never imagined possible. The galaxy had thought Earth was a death trap. They had looked at that hostile world and seen only horror. They had not understood how anything could survive there, much less thrive. But they had been wrong. Earth was not just a death trap. It was also a crucible, a forge that had shaped its children into something extraordinary, something that refused to be limited by circumstance or biology or history. The humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day. And they had responded not by hiding, not by retreating, not by giving up. They had responded by becoming stronger, by becoming smarter, by becoming more determined. And now they were among the stars, sharing that strength with everyone they met. Vexler thought about the young humans he had seen arriving today, those children with their wide eyes and their predator smiles. In a few years, they would graduate from the academy and spread out across the galaxy. They would work alongside species that had thought their kind was impossible. They would form friendships with beings who had been afraid of them. They would leave their mark on every world they touched. And they would change everything. For a moment, Vexler felt something he had not felt since he was a young officer just starting his career. He felt hope, real hope, for the future. Not the cautious hope of someone planning for safety, but the wild hope of someone who believed that tomorrow could be better than today. The humans had taught him that. He turned and walked toward the ceremony hall, where representatives from 48 species, including humanity, would gather to celebrate 5 years of cooperation. There would be speeches and music and food from every culture represented. There would be old tensions and new friendships and countless small moments of understanding. It would be chaotic and messy and occasionally dangerous, because that was what happened when humans were involved. But it would also be beautiful. And that, Vexler had learned, was the whole point. Outside the station, the stars burned cold and bright, just as they had for billions of years. The galaxy stretched out in every direction, full of wonders yet to be discovered. And somewhere out there, human ships were flying toward new horizons, carrying with them the strange and terrible and wonderful spirit of the species that had evolved on a world called Earth. The apex predators had taken their place among the stars. And the galaxy would never be the same.